Hi, we're Harry and Charlie from Charlie Bit My Finger.
Ah! Oh, ouch! Ouch! Ouch, Charlie! Ow! Charlie, that really hurts!
This is our little brother Jasper, and we've taken over the Channel 4 news studio. Here's what 2012 taught us.
First up, science. What's a Higgs boson?
I don't know. What is a Higgs boson?
I don't know either. Clarke does, though.
OK, Charlie, well, discoveries don't really get bigger than this year's discovery of the Higgs boson, because fundamental particles in science don't really get more fundamental than the Higgs. Without it, nothing in the universe, the matter in the universe, would have any mass. That means the particles in you, in me, in the television studio would just start crashing around at the speed of light. Without the Higgs, so the theorists say, there would be no universe. And the discovery of the Higgs was more important still to the whole process of science, because it was something that was essentially imagined by theoretical physicists back in the 1970s. They just created the idea of it, but it wasn't for many years later, after building this hugely expensive machine specifically to discover it, they found it was actually there. So it didn't just prove, all right, the Higgs is there. It also proved our whole idea of the universe, these imaginative conceptual ideas that scientists come up with are actually working. Things that we dreamt up as scientists actually exist in the real world. And that's the other reason 2012 discovery of the Higgs was a massive, massive breakthrough in the world of science.
Wow, thanks, Tom. And it was the year of the Olympics and the Paralympics.
We watched loads of sport, and so did Jon Snow, but what did he learn?
Well, Harry, 2012 taught me about an understanding of disability. At last, thanks to the Paralympics, I really did begin to see that people with disabilities are exactly the same as us, except they've got a few things different. And yet their achievements are as great as anyone else's.
Goal for Great Britain! The crowd are on their feet.
Just so amazing.
Unbelievable performance. He most definitely has inspired a generation.
The greatest show on earth. The Olympics really were a warm-up act.
Thanks, John. Lots going on here, but what about the rest of the world?
Syria shows us, above all else, you can't reduce the Arab Spring to a simplistic struggle between freedom fighters with Kalashnikovs and brutal dictators. It's far more complex. It's about moderate Islam versus radical Islam. It's about China, Russia and Iran versus the West. And that's left the West hedging its bets, supporting the suits behind the revolution on the one hand, yet denouncing some of the revolution's key fighters as terrorists. Syria's also shown us the rebels winning the propaganda war on YouTube hands down, leaving the regime suspicious of all forms of media, new and old, and yet complaining the world doesn't understand it.
The banks have been naughty in 2012, and we've learnt a new word. Over to Siobhan Kennedy.
That's right, Harry. It's been another bad year for the banks, and we've all learnt another complicated acronym as a result. It's called LIBOR, and it stands for the London Interbank Offered Rate, and it describes the rate at which the banks lend to each other and lend to us. And what we found out was the banks were being rather naughty behind the scenes and trying to fix that rate to their own end. One bank in particular, Barclays, lost its chief executive as a result and was forced to pay an almighty £290 million fine. And it's causing a problem for the politicians here too, because two of our state-owned banks, RBS and Lloyds, are also tied up in the scandal. And we're going to have to wait until early next year to find out just how much they're going to have to pay to clear up their side of this mess.
And finally, 2012 taught us this.